Hey guys, it's Ashley, and today I'm going to be talking to you about The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. So The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue is a hilarious historical fiction adventure story following Monty, or Henry Montague, and his best friend Percy and his sister Felicity, and they are taking their grand tour of Europe before Monty takes over his father's estate, and things go very, very wrong, and they just embark on this adventure they hadn't really planned on going on to begin with, to try to recover something and save something, and yada yada yada. Adventure happens, and it's great. Not to mention that the entire time Monty is in love with Percy, and Felicity is just a hidden badass. The story is literally filled with all of these swoon-worthy moments, and all of the cheering-worthy moments, and all of the, you know, annoying moments that you just really don't want to happen, but know they have to happen for them to reach a better understanding of themselves and to really express their feelings for one another, and blah blah blah. All of the stuff is in this book, and it's great. On top of being an adventure historical fiction novel, this book tackles racism, this book tackles mental illness, this book tackles literally like everything in one historical fiction adventure novel, and I love it so much, and if you haven't read it yet, you should, because it's really, really, really good. So that is all I'm going to say for this non-spoilery section. Please go read it if you haven't, and come back when you have so we can discuss. So goodbye, non-spoilery people, I'll see you later. So I just want to start this off by saying, can we just talk about Monty and Percy for a second? Like, oh my goodness. I love these boys so much. It's not even funny. And you know what was really funny for a while too? For the longest time, up until maybe like a third of the way through the book, I had completely flipped their races. So I thought that Monty was biracial and that Percy was white, and that's why I was so confused at the Versailles scene where they were like pushing down Percy for being biracial, and I was like, but he's not, and then I realized he was. It just, yeah. But once I got my head screwed on straight, it was adorable, and I was obsessed. Obviously, they had those moments where you were just really annoyed because Monty or Percy would either ruin the situation and the moment, and then nobody would express their feelings for anybody, and it never came until the very, very end. Like, I was probably 400 pages into this book and still hadn't gotten the moment that I wanted. So, yes, it definitely took a while, but it was worth it in the end. And can we also just talk about how much I love the I'm in love with my best friend trope? I love that. I don't know if I'll ever get over it. I love it. Though not when the best friend is not the person that I ship that person with, if you know what I mean. Clary, Simon, Jace. So let's talk about Felicity real fast. Felicity is me. She was reading books at the dinner table. She didn't give a crap about what anybody thought of her. And when we found out that she was reading medicinal books this entire time, when she was reading books about doctors and medicine and science this whole time in the 18th century, when women were supposed to go to, you know, serving school or whatever it was called, and they're supposed to learn good manners and how to treat their husbands well, and oh my god, like, Felicity, you badass, you secret undercover badass. She's just defying all expectations in the 18th century, and I'm obsessed. I also really liked how Mackenzie Lee was able to introduce abuse into this, and more so familial abuse. I really liked Monty's development through the book. In spite of that, you know, he took what had happened to him and he turned it into something that he could use, and I really, really, really liked that. Though sometimes Monty was so naive, I just wanted to slap him across the face sometimes. Like, wake up, boy, do you even realize that Percy's in love with you too? Because literally, the moment that Percy kissed you back when you guys were in Paris, like, how did you not? What did you think he was doing? So let's just spin this for a second and talk about the fact that Percy has epilepsy. This was definitely not something that I had expected. It was definitely something that took me for a loop and, you know, kind of spun me around until I was like, what is going on? I really, really liked how this was introduced, because we're talking about epilepsy in the 18th century. We're talking about all of the, you know, miscommunication, misdiagnosis kind of things, and the reasons behind why epilepsy can occur and how wrong a lot of those reasons were. Like, drilling holes into your head. Can we just take a moment and think about why that is so obviously wrong. But I really also liked it because we are following Monty's perspective, and we're following him as he's trying to kind of come to terms with what this is, how he can help. Throughout the entire book, like I said, he's very naive. He doesn't realize that Percy has already had to live with this for 2 years of his life. He knows how to live with this, but Monty is just so dead set on trying to cure him, you know, that he's not saying that Percy is okay with it, and that he should be okay with it too, and he should learn how to live with it and possibly learn how to help Percy when these things happen. So I really liked mostly Monty coming to terms with what it is and trying to accept somebody for who he is rather than trying to fix him, if you know what I mean. I really, really liked that part, and I just liked learning a little bit more about epilepsy, even though, you know, a lot of what happened in this book was not, you know, what we know of epilepsy today, but I liked learning about what they thought about it back then. So back to the plot a little bit. So they go on their grand tour of Europe and get hijacked by highwaymen who end up being the Duke of Bourbon because Monty took that box in his office when he really shouldn't have. And they go to Marseille, and then they go to Spain to find Matteo Roble, or whoever his name was, and they end up finding his son and his daughter, and they find out all of the stuff that goes on with Penn and Nancia and the cure-alls and things like that. It's so much that, like, I'm kind of taken for a loop for a little bit. This whole time, Monty is searching for this panacea, who is really ends up being Matteo's wife. His wife is in, like, this comatose, not really dead but not really alive state, and her heart is the panacea. So if somebody consumes her heart, it'll be like the cure-all, and he'll never get sick again or something. Monty is searching for it for Percy, but of course Percy doesn't want it, and it's just like this big, big mess. What I did like about it, though, was that all of this science was introduced into this 18th century story, and Felicity was so game. So then we have the moment where Monty finds the key in the box after he gets the cipher from Roble, and then he ends up going on the ship, and they end up becoming stowaways on the ship for a little bit, and Percy and Monty have their moment, and it's beautiful, but then it's interrupted by pirates who aren't even pirates. Scipio and his crew are not even pirates, and they interrupt Percy and Monty's moment by doing pirating things. But regardless of whether they're pirates or not, I really, really, really love Scipio, and I love his crew, and I love also, now that we've gotten into the pirate part of this, how racism is also tackled in this book in the 18th century, because obviously much racism is occurring in the 18th century in Europe. So we have Scipio, who is black, and his whole crew is black, and then we have Percy, who's biracial, and so Monty is the person that a lot of these officials look to because nobody thinks that these, you know, people have a lot of status. And even though Scipio is the captain of the ship, the French officials look to Monty because he's white. And I love how Scipio, he's trying to explain to Monty how humiliating it is for it to be his ship and for him to not be taken seriously just because of the color of his skin. Oh my goodness, I just really liked how it was tackled. I like how Monty came to terms with it. Like, just Monty's development in this whole book about him realizing what the world is really like was just the highlight of this book. And then the moment in the streets of Venice, oh my goodness, the Percy and Monty moment was so great. And how Monty was like ready to just take off his pants right then and there, and Percy's like, dude, you're in the middle of the street, can we not? So then of course Monty gets captured by the Duke of Bourbon, and they take him to the island, and then Percy and Felicity are supposed to come save him, and then heroic Helena finally takes initiative and throws the heart into the fire, and then the Duke dies, and Monty's ear gets ripped off, and all of this shit goes down. I love how afterward, can we just talk about how Scipio offers Felicity a position on his ship as a surgeon? Felicity's like 15. Let's talk about badass, right? And then of course Monty and Percy confess their feelings for each other, and it's just so adorable. And Monty writes his family, and he's like, let the goblin have the estate. I'm with the dude I love, and we're gonna just rule the world together. I was just, oh my god, someone help me. So overall, I just really, really, really love this book. I love the issues that it tackled. I loved the timeline. I loved the adventure aspect. I love the romance. It's just so, so good. And if you haven't read it yet, please do, because I read it in 2 days. I loved it so much. If you have read it and you've made it this far in the video, please let me know what you thought of the book. I'd love to talk about it with you guys. But other than that, that's gonna be it for this video. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I will catch you later. Goodbye!